かつて魔界から生まれた少女がいた。彼女は愛も欲も痛みも知らなかった。彼女の唯一の望みは復讐を求めることだった。何世紀もの間、意図的に受け継がれた血の渇き、呪われた着物に。
Welcome back to yet another episode for the 450 build series, and today we're going to talk about electrical trays. So without further ado, let's jump into the intro and get right into the episode. It all starts with the paper, and I'm going to take you through the whole process once we get on the tripod, but for right now I just wanted to preface everything, show you what we're doing and why, and one of those tips and tricks is using paper. Trust me, use paper, make 5, 15, 20 designs with the paper, but use it to get an idea, measurements, and then you can literally just translate, copy, paste the paper version onto metal, then cut metal once. Instead of cutting metal 50 times, you're gonna cut paper 50 times. So with that, we're gonna jump on the tripod and cue the music. Yo, yo, wow. All right, pause the time lapse and music and let's get on a little update train quick and talk about the kind of final mock-up I'm going with. So one big tip that I recommend, and as you know, there's a ton of videos out there on how to make an electrical tray or pan for your CAFÉ RACER build. For reference, BJ from Brickhouse Builds has great videos on the whole step-by-step process on how to do that. I'm using his methods along with some of my own little ones on what the best way is to come up with a rough or as close as possible dimension or shape that you can translate from paper to metal. Because the whole idea with the paper is, as many of you may already know or can guess, the paper is a great cheap way to practice, come up with the shape, see what it is, mock it up in a very, very cheap fashion, whereas, you know, with metal, you can't really bend it without properly knowing where to bend it. So essentially, the paper solves a lot of headaches in the end. I just want to give a little walkthrough of the design. Right, so I still have to trim, obviously, around the edges nice, but essentially, I'm going to have a little 4-cell under the cowl right here, maybe the M unit, or I'm thinking the starter solenoid and regulator rectifier here. And then I'm thinking maybe right here we can have the M unit and whatever else. But essentially, I really wanted to kind of have some lines going on. So I'm going to have this come up a little bit, and then I have the little bend up to match the design and match the lineage of the shock. And then I also have play and enough room for the adjustability on the monoshock. There should be no issues there. And essentially it's it's very simple, it's straightforward, but that's what I'm gonna work with, and I'm very excited to get going. So let's take the paper, go to the workbench, and translate it to metal. With that, we're gonna roll back the music and get back on the tripod.
We must pay homage to him.
So basically that's kind of the process I took to go from paper form to final metal form. And the overall process was not too bad, not gonna lie. I would have liked to have changed a couple things, I believe, but overall I had to change the actual design from what I originally thought I was gonna do with the paper. The reason I had to do that is because of shock clearance. So if you look here, is I originally had this down here drop a bit and then it goes up. But I switched the angle to have sort of a matching line from back to front as the shock. That will give me plenty of room and clearance here. I don't see any of this being an issue. I hope not, and if we do have an issue, then I gotta restart and that's gonna be a bear. But we'll worry about that when the time comes. I'm not too worried. But essentially, I wanted to make sure there was enough room. It was too close to call with the original design, so I changed it, and I made it a straight upward angle to sort of match the trajectory of the shock angle. And it came out pretty good. I'm not going to lie, one side's slightly off, but it's pretty close to symmetrical, which, you know, you can only do so much in these types of things. And then I actually resorted to MIG welding everything, which, you know, isn't as pretty and clean as like a TIG weld, as we all know. In terms of efficiency and lack of time, I just went ahead and used my MIG welder. Some of the welds are kind of trashy, but most of them came out pretty solid, so I'm pretty psyched on that. I actually love welding, and one of my tasks that in the future I'm going to work on is getting or acquiring a TIG welder in addition to the repertoire of tools that I have in the shop. Regardless, that's sort of the electrical tray. I'm going to house the battery here. And then I was thinking starter solenoid and main fuse right here. And then maybe M unit right here and have a good flow of wires going up. That's, again, subject to kind of change a little bit. I still have to find where to put the regulator rectifier. So with that, that's going to conclude this episode for making the electrical tray for the CB450 CAFÉ RACER build. We're making good headway with the little pockets of time that we have. But let's wrap it up. And as always, fam, we are one team, one family over at milezero.racers. Thanks for being dope. Catch you in the next episode.
Yeah.